This is NHTV2, North Haven Government Television, a service of North Haven Community Television. The following program is brought to you through the support of the Town of North Haven.
I'd like to call the Board of Fire Commission virtual meeting for Monday, November 2nd, 2020 to order. To the residents and taxpayers of the Town of North Haven and other interested parties, due to Governor Ned Lamont's March 10, 2020 declaration of public health emergency and civil preparedness emergency, and has subsequently issued Executive Order 7B and 7D, and due to the spread of coronavirus disease 2019 in the state of Connecticut, including New Haven County, in-person public access to meetings will not be permitted. This will be a 100% electronic meeting. There will be no public comments. The public can access the meeting as follows. This meeting will be televised by North Haven TV, NHTV, available through Comcast Xfinity subscribers on channel 20 and 1084, and other subscribers channel 6053. Dial in using your phone. Dial in number 1-929-205-6099. Access code 905-308-2509. Password 839411. I'd like to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag,
United States of America.
America. To the republic for which it stands.
To the republic for which it stands.
Under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. I'd like to ask for the approval of the minutes from the Fire Commission meeting held on September 22nd, 2020.
So moved.
Yes. Second.
Any question on the motion?
Second. Joe. Aye.
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 The motion passes. The Chief's report.
Good evening, everybody. Joining you this evening from the Emergency Operations Center, which has the video capability for us. And should we have to meet in the future, we'll be able to do so that we're socially distanced. But tonight we've got a couple of things on the agenda, and so it didn't make sense for us all to be in the same room together. Regarding the report for this month, again, we're going to cover from a period of time from our last meeting till present day. So we're going to start with alarms. Alarms 2019. At this point, we are at 3,813 alarms. Alarms 2020, we are at 4,083, an increase of 270 alarms. 5 years ago, in 2015, we are at 3,572 alarms, difference of 511. So we continue to see our alarms increasing and trending upwards. The last Board of Fire Commission meeting was on September 22nd, so these numbers are going to continue to reflect our data since that time. Since our last meeting, the FDA has provided ALS intercept on 10 different occasions. We've had 15 different incident responses to the highway. And in terms of being able to identify the number of calls the FD was unable to or had a delayed response to, that is some data points that we're going to need to further refine. It's worth noting that only a couple of weeks ago, we went live with EMD for our PSAP, our Public Safety Answering Point in our dispatch center. And with that, basically how we keep track of all of our alarms, how we keep track of units that are responding and not responding to scenes has all changed. So you're going to need to give me a little bit of time to identify how we're going to pull that data out in the future and know that it's valid. So more to come on that. And again, that's only in terms of the calls that we were delayed responding to or we were unable to respond to. That's the only thing that we're going to need some time to continue to be able to figure out how we're going to pull that from the CAD. 65% of our calls were EMS in nature, and we had approximately 552 incidents since our last meeting, 157 of which were overlapping, which accounts for 28%. Regarding the budget, at this time last year, we were at 33.8% spent. At this time right now, we are at 38.3%. Our income for the fire marshal's office since our last meeting is $32,888, bringing us to a total this fiscal year of $70,960. Give me 1 second, please. Thank you. Appreciate your patience. I'm just trying to monitor the waiting room for Zoom and let the fire marshal's office continues to stay busy with inspections taking place as well. 43 inspections since our last meeting, 8 re-inspections for a total of 51. 9 different code violations were found, 17 were corrected. We had 1 abatement order that was issued, and we had 66 plan reviews permits that were reviewed over the last month or so since our last meeting. A number of projects in town are keeping us busy. Several different projects are underway in terms of plan review and so forth. One thing in particular that's keeping the fire marshal's office busy as well is the COVID complaints that are coming in. If you look at the way that the COVID complaints and the sector rules are designed, it's all based on occupancy levels. And those occupancy levels are driven directly from building occupancy based on fire code. So we are getting more and more involved in helping businesses identify what their capacity is so that we can comply with the different sector rules set out by the DECD. And we also have a number of complaints that we follow up on as well. As far as training goes, our training since our last meeting has consisted primarily of airbags and stabilizers, fire streams and fire control, as well as some different ICS and NIM for several of our staff. Correspondence I will get to in an executive session. I have a few things for executive session for commission, and that's the chief's report.
The chief regarding his report. I just want to echo your comments, Chief, and the fact that we are busier with comparison to the previous at 4,080 calls, trending up, and the ALS trips to the hospital being 10. And I know you'll get into this, but this was prior to the takeover, correct?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear exactly. What was that?
The ALS call trips into the hospital at 10. Was that prior to the takeover?
That was since the takeover for Nelson, yes, that we've written in 10 times.
All right, very good. Thank you. Any other questions of the chief regarding his report? I'm sorry?
Yeah, this is Jenny. I have a quick question. I know that the fire marshal's office was something that the Board of Finance cut some of the funds for it. Is that correct?
That is, yes.
So do you have any sense of the impact of the cuts on what you guys are able to do in terms of meeting the needs of the fire marshal's office, or?
We continue to move through with that line. The line that was cut was the consultant line. So we are moving forward with conducting inspections the way that we always have, and if we start getting to a point where that line is going to be exceeded, or we're not going to be able to meet that expectation, I'll certainly report it back to the commission. But it's a combination of both fire investigations and the fire scene investigations and the consultant for conducting the occupancy inspections at regular intervals as well. That's what that line supported.
So right now, you're just doing what you typically do, and then you're just going to monitor whether it's going to be a problem towards the end of the year?
Correct, yes.
Okay. And then one other quick question. You mentioned that with the new system, do you have data on the delayed or unable to respond, or you don't have that information yet?
That changed a little bit. So what we're doing is the entire CAD system had to get recreated. And so now that we're tracking ambulances, and I'll certainly get to this a little further down in some more detail, but now that we're tracking ambulances, because we have the ability for ambulances to sign on with our radio system and let us know that they're responding to an incident and arriving on an incident, those same units that we used to have in the CAD for if we were missing calls or if there was supposed to be a fire unit assigned to it, those are now being used for tracking the ambulances. What we have to do is get back into the CAD system and redesign it a little bit so that we can factor in when a fire unit is requested and is not available. And that's something that, it's just, to be honest with you, the priority has been tracking the ambulances in the last couple of weeks. This happened really fast for us, and I'll cover it further later in the agenda. And that's something that it's something that we could go in and find manually, but it's really labor intensive to do. We'll eventually have a way to pull it out of the CAD again. It's just going to take a couple of weeks to develop.
Okay.
Chief,
Yes, sir.
Joe Capucci here. I'm impressed with the new system that we have for dispatching the ambulance and so forth. Good job. Good job.
It's really much more enhanced than it was prior. And I think if you listen to other towns now, you'll find that we compare directly alongside our neighbors in terms of the information being shared and what the information at dispatch is gathering. I agree with you, sir. It sounds great.
Okay.
Chief, it's the chairman. Getting back to Jen's question regarding the budget for the fire marshal's office, and I know for the last budget, our budget was guard. The impact that would have is for if in the event we needed to investigate fire, as far as fire investigation is concerned, and to bring contractors on board.
Correct. Right.
Who's ringing?
Hello?
All right.
Good, I'm on a Zoom meeting right now. Okay. Yep, bye.
So my expectation is, based on what you just indicated, we're conducting normal investigations as far as the fire marshal is concerned. But anything outside of that realm, we would incur additional costs that would put that particular line item in a negative. Is that correct?
It could, yeah, and that's where if we started to see that was happening, I would come back to this commission and I would certainly go back to California. Yeah.
Absolutely understand. Okay, very good. Any other questions of the chief regarding his report? Hearing none, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No questions.
Okay. All right, hearing none, I'll accept the motion to accept the chief's report.
So moved.
Do I hear a
Second.
second? Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Correspondence, chief.
Other than the day-to-day correspondence, I just have two that were handwritten letters that I always attempt to try to read if somebody's going to take the time to write a letter themselves. They're both from residents for services rendered during since our last meeting in terms of just thank you notes for the EMS to different calls, both town residents.
I personally received an email correspondence from a town resident who was questioning the last fire commission meeting where we were appropriately distanced, but we certainly had the meeting at the fire station on Washington Avenue. I articulated to this resident that moving forward, including this meeting, they will be Zoom meetings virtual until we get the all clear. And that needs to suffice and satisfy that resident's concern. Has anyone else received any correspondence at all?
No,
No.
no, no.
Okay. Hearing none, we'll discuss unfinished business of the fire department.
Unfinished business, I have a couple of things on the agenda. We'll start with the state of the apparatus. Mechanical maintenance contract was recently awarded to our existing vendor, which is New England Fire Equipment based out of North Haven. That bid is good for another 3 years. Also, it's on your agenda. Going back, real fast to fire apparatus. Annual PMs are going to start, and the ROTA already have started. Pump checks and DOT checks have begun as well. As always, we're going to start with our oldest engines first. A reminder that we have 26, 29, and a 33-year-old engine still in service at this time. So we're going to start with those first. Regarding the Oems Psar update, I actually have an update, and there's been a lot that's taken place since our last meeting. So we received notice of an award from Connecticut Oems on September 25th, and that decision was effective immediately. And that awarded the Psar to the town of North Haven. That award being effective immediately really forced us to have to make some fast changes. One of which, again, going back to the CAD, which Commissioner Caldwell had asked about, these things happened quick, and we just have to still work out a couple of final things. But essentially what happened was we negotiated an agreement with AMR that provided the existing level of service they provided to us, and that was agreed that they would provide that service for up to the next 30 days. Following that, once we had service provided for 30 days and gave us that window in which the town owned the Psar, but we still had to basically get our feet under us, we moved forward with a contract with Nelson Ambulance based upon the advice of Attorney Jeff D'Onofrio. After reviewing the contract, and a decision was made by First Selectman Michael Frieda and myself to enter that contract with Nelson Ambulance. Several things exist within this contract, which I'd like to just bring to the attention of the Fire Commission. In no order of priority, they're listed as follows. 2 dedicated ambulances to town North Haven at all times, one of which will be ALS, one of which will be BLS. We have defined time parameters within the contract for when the ambulance has to arrive on scene based upon the priority of the call. So priority 1, 2, and 3, they have to arrive on scene within so many minutes. We have the ability to review all of the patient care reports for any resident in North Haven. That's important. If we're contracting a service out for ambulance service, we want to make sure that the caller is being reviewed, the medical care is being reviewed, that the ambulance provider provided to our taxpayer. We want to make sure that it meets our expectations. So we have access to be able to review all of the patient care reports. Nelson Ambulance will also serve as our backup to our dispatch center in the event that they're not able to triage medical calls. We have GIS tracking now for the ambulances assigned to North Haven. So we can open up a map in our apparatus. We can open up maps, in some cases, on our phones for those that have CAD on our phone. And there could even be screens set up in dispatch that show the ambulances exactly where they are in North Haven at a given time. We have established direct radio communication with the ambulances for Nelson Ambulance. So the second that we receive a call, it is pushed out by CAD to Nelson Ambulance from our PSAP, from our dispatch center. Nelson Ambulance then acknowledges the call, and within moments, an ambulance is signing on the air, responding to the call, and shortly thereafter arriving on scene, and again, doing so over the fire radio frequency so the fire units know exactly which ambulance is responding which level of provider is responding. Again, if it's ALS or BLS, it can go two-way direct traffic in the event that we need to talk to the ambulance to navigate through traffic or road closures or anything to that effect. Advantages also exist regarding the billing. So there's some advantages in terms of what we can bill for now, which should make a positive impact on the income for the EMS billing. This is a 3-year contract that we signed with Nelson, and there's a good possibility you're still going to see AMR in North Haven, as we'll still be using AMR for when we surge for our calls. So AMR has agreed to continue to serve as our mutual aid partner. So if you see an AMR ambulance in town, just know that North Haven likely has multiple incidents taking place at any given time. We're a couple of weeks outside this transition to Nelson Ambulance. I'm happy to report that it's going extremely well. The service provided is outstanding. The communication with their upper management has been extraordinary. We have an open dialogue with them at any given time. Nelson Ambulance is willing to change and adapt to what our needs are. There's a lot of unknowns with this. Our prior ambulance provider had been serving in town North Haven for 30 plus years. There were calls taking place in town that we were not aware of at times. There's a lot of calls taking place now that we're able to identify now that we couldn't before. So again, this is all very new. It's only a couple of weeks old. It's going to take us some time to kind of figure out what our norm is going to be and to start pulling any kind of real data out. But it's important to know that this was very significant. Deputy Chief Martis worked extremely hard on this for the last couple of years. This was the big reason why the ALS transports for the fire department was down as much as it was for the last couple of years. And I know that's a big item of contention for certain people in town. And that's because when we decided to pursue the Psar through the state and begin these hearings, our prior ambulance provider was on their best behavior. And they flooded us with paramedics and they flooded us with ambulances, hoping that would make a difference. And in the end, it's not so much how many ambulances or how many paramedics. It's all about the accountability and the transparency of the service being provided to our taxpayers. And that's something that we're going to start to balance out now moving forward. It's likely that we're going to start seeing the ALS transports into the hospital, probably not quite to what they were 3 years ago, but certainly not non-existent at all like they have been for the last couple of years. So as we move forward, we'll identify what our new norm is going to be in terms of income. It's important to note that this change also happened at the exact same time that we were going live with our dispatch center. Our dispatch center is now triaging what we call emergency medical dispatching all of our medical calls. That is new. That is something that has not happened in this town since 2014. It was subcontracted out to AMR, and that also hindered us a little bit in how we responded for ambulance calls, because again, that's what allowed calls to take place in North Haven that we weren't made aware of, because several cases the ambulance company was getting a call directly, and North Haven dispatch nor fire knew anything about a call taking place. So there's a lot of changes, and I know there might be some questions moving forward, and I just ask that everybody kind of gives us some time to kind of figure out what kind of data we're going to be able to extrapolate from CAD. But it's all positive, it's all good, it's all big change, and it's worth noting that North Haven is only the second town to successfully have the Psar taken away from an ambulance company and assigned to municipality. So it's a big change for us, and I really want to thank Deputy Chief Martis, who did nothing but devote time to this for the last couple of years. In doing so, faces a lot of criticism at times for the EMS billing line, but I'm confident that that's all going to start to work out moving forward.
Any questions of the chief regarding that particular line in the unfinished business?
Yeah, I have a couple of quick questions. Just to be clear, we were able to get the PSAR. What can you just explain? I know you were explaining a lot of the details about how it works, but basically, how was the decision made to sort of switch to Nelson And I'm a little confused about what role they play versus the ambulances in town, just to kind of clarify, especially for people in North Haven, what exactly the PSAR allows the town to do, and then what Nelson will be doing. Like, what is the distinction between those two?
Sure. So I can go on for a long time with this, but basically I'll give you a quick synopsis. The Psar is the legal right and authority and responsibility to transport patients from municipality to hospitals. So that could be anything from a routine matter to the emergency room to a significant medical event to an emergency room. And that includes all residential and commercial properties in North Haven. So the Psar had been assigned to AMR, and AMR was solely responsible for the transport of patients to and from the hospitals in terms of response and transporting at the BLS level, which is the majority of medical calls. We've negotiated successfully through several hearings, which the court hearings are all public record, which can be found in the transcripts for those. We proposed an EMS plan and how we wanted incidents in North Haven to be responded to by, at that time, it was American Medical Response. The plan was discussed with AMR senior management, and the plan was executed and filed with the state. And over the course of the next year and a half or so, we identified several different areas where that plan was not being adhered to. That caused us to file a second plan, and with that second plan, it was included in it that we would assume the Psar, and we were going to initiate hearings to have the Psar reassigned to North Haven because the EMS plan that was on file with the state was not being adhered to by AMR. And that was the foundation for which the Psar was reassigned to North Haven. Those hearings took several months to go through all the process. And it was ultimately decided that the EMS plan and that town North Haven had on file was in fact not being adhered to. And the town North Haven was better suited in contracting out with a provider to provide for the services identified in the EMS plan itself. Nelson Ambulance is a local ambulance service central out of North Haven, and it's a contract that has no dollar number attached to it at all. There's no money at all that's costing North Haven. And after review of the contract that was proposed and in discussion with the first selectman, it was decided that we would move forward with Nelson Ambulance.
Okay, and then one other quick thing. The money that has sort of been, because of what AMR was doing, how will that change in terms of that line item that you were talking about that wasn't bringing in the money that originally you anticipated?
Sure. So it's worth noting that prior to the town of North Haven pursuing the Psar, which was about 3 years ago, I want to say that we were providing assistance to the hospital with our paramedic about 250 to 300 times a year. The income being generated at that time was substantial, although it could have been more. We switched over to a different billing service, which allowed us to capture more revenue. And it was not much longer after that, that based on a number of different circumstances, we had a number of meetings with the first selectman, and he decided to pursue the Psar. When he did, the prior ambulance provider was, as I said before, on their best behavior and trying to do everything they could to make sure that they had the best chance of making the Psar hearings go in their favor. And they essentially provided us with very good service over the last couple of years, which drove down the number of times our paramedic rode into the hospital, because we went from 250 to 300 times a year to, let's say, 50 times a year. And that's why that EMS line was down like it was, because we were getting flooded with ambulances and paramedics. That was a mask. That wasn't any indication of what it was going to be moving forward. That was all because of the Psar hearings that were taking place. You have to remember that the way that our prior ambulance company was set up, there were regional assets. There were regional ambulances. So the same ambulance that may have been responding in North Haven would be responding to Hamden, New Haven, West Haven, East Haven, and so forth. That includes the paramedic. When we decided to pursue the Psar, the ambulances with paramedics that were serving those other towns were all shifted to North Haven, a large majority of them. It's not like AMR hired more paramedics. It's not like there was a change in how they staffed. It was all just purposely trying to make sure that North Haven was taken care of. In doing so, other towns suffered. In fact, they went from riding in and assisting with their paramedic to the hospital the same amount that we were, 250 to 300 times a year, to 600 to 800 times a year, because all of the paramedics are being sent to North Haven. And that's exactly why the numbers are driven down. Now, moving forward, we're going to find something in the middle there. And it's hard to say exactly what that's going to look like, because there were calls taking place in North Haven that we didn't even know about. So now with our dispatch providing the EMD component, being able to send units to calls, and in some cases not send fire units to calls, because we have the legal ability to ask the right questions of a 911 caller and not send a fire resource. So again, I can go on for a long time about this. This is a lot of information in a short period of time. Just know that moving forward, we're likely going to see a number of times that we provide paramedic intercept to the hospital rise. What exactly that's going to be is yet to be determined. It really depends on the calls that are taking place that we don't even know about yet, and the staffing that we're going to be able to put together with our contract.
That makes sense. One just last quick question. This is a very quick one. So the billing that will happen will be the North Haven will be able to bill to a resident or to an insurance company for the transport itself?
Yes.
Okay.
Commissioner Caldwell, I want to add, if I can, just not reiterate, but add some numbers to what the chief said. From January 1st of 2018 to December 31st of 2018, and keep in mind, we filed the petition with the state in January of 19. We were the second petition filed with the Department of Public Health. We went to the hospital either by transport or by intercept 397 times. On the following year, so January of 2019, which we filed, like I said, our petition, to December 31st of 2019, which was when we were in court, we went to the hospital a total of 167 times. So we literally went to the hospital less than half during the petition, and the chief already explained the mirage factor. The other thing that's really important is we did not have a bundle bill agreement, which I could explain at any time anybody wants to ask me, but essentially it stops us from billing our Medicare patients directly because Medicare does not cover the fire department service. So what we do is we legally enter into an agreement where the ambulance company will bill one charge to Medicare, and then they will send us a fee. And we have not had that fee as well. So just that fee alone is going to increase that line. My guess is the rides to the hospital will remain pretty consistent to what they've been, just at the level of service, but there's a lot more revenue that we can collect. And those are some hard numbers, just to let you know where that line dipped. We went from 400 trips a year to less than half of that overnight.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I understood that from the beginning. I think the chief had explained that to me when I first started. I was just trying to figure out moving forward somewhat how that would change, but that's all good information. So thank you.
Any other commissioners have any other questions regarding the Psar?
No.
Firstly, I would like to congratulate our chief, our deputy chief Martis, our town attorney, Jeffrey Donofrio, for successfully obtaining the Psar from AMR, from the state of Connecticut, and eliminating AMR. It was a daunting task, an accumulation of significant data and information as to what AMR was doing, and equally as important, what they were not doing in a timely manner. And it was difficult, as we all experienced. There were other commissioners in the Board of Finance and other commissions in town that were really not in favor of this taking place, because they truly did not understand the significance of what was happening with this Psar when AMR was in control. The town of North Haven and our fire chief in particular certainly did not have much control at all over what AMR was doing. And now, because of their professionalism, the skill and expertise of our town attorney, and all of the testimony that our deputy chief and chief had made, we are now in total control over what is going to be happening with Nelson Ambulance as they perform duties for the residents and business owners of our town. The winners of this Psar are definitely the residents and the business owners of our town that are already experiencing better quality service in a more timely manner with the appropriate staff at the appropriate time. And certainly the chief and the deputy chief, again, worked diligently to make sure that our CAD system was communicating with Nelson, that our dispatchers have been trained and are able to really triage the calls that are coming in to make sure that we're appropriately responding. And I tip my hat to each of you that have gone through this. And there was a tremendous amount of controversy and obstacles that were in the way to get this done. And I need to also thank First Selectman Frida for having the courage to allow both of you and the town attorney to pursue this and ultimately succeed. So I thank you on behalf of our commission. Job well done. And our residents and our business owners of our town will absolutely be served for the years to come better than they have been with the previous carrier. So thank you, Chief. Thank you, Deputy Chief. Chief, please move on to your last item on the unfinished business.
Sure. The last item I have for you is the training center. Just a quick update there. This was put out to bid recently. The bid closed on September 23rd. It's been awarded to THP, which is Tomlinson Hawley Patterson, as the construction company that's going to build this tower. It's anticipated it's going to take about 7 months to complete, and we're looking at starting this next week. And that's what I have for the training center.
Joe, any questions regarding the training center as a volunteer?
No, not at all. I'm just glad that it's finally going up.
Very good. Any other questions of the chief regarding unfinished business?
No.
Here are none. I'll accept the motion to accept his report.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second. Yep.
Any question on the motion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
So moved. Discussion of new business for the fire department.
I had nothing listed for new business on your agenda for this month.
Chief, the next item is the good of the fire department.
Yeah, go to the department. Just two quick things. I would just want to recognize the CERT team, the Community Emergency Response Team again. They've been very active. They've been active through the entire COVID crisis. They were active again for Trunk or Treat, which is a little modified this year. And they continue to be active in the community. And I just want to make sure the commission realizes that they're important to the town. They're doing great service, and that they are going to be starting another class soon for any residents interested in joining CERT. I invite people to check out their Facebook page. Additionally, I just have listed here the Long-Term Recovery Committee. You may have seen a survey being sent out different places in town, and that was being put together by the Long-Term Recovery Committee, which was a committee appointed by the First Selectman and that was in direct response to the COVID crisis and identifying needs within the community that were unmet. So if you see that survey and it's still available, please consider filling it out. And that committee is doing outstanding work as well in identifying what the needs are for the community as we move through this COVID crisis. And that's all I have for good of the department.
Thank you, Chief. And certainly, Chief, on behalf of our commission, please extend our thanks and congratulations to the CERT team. They absolutely have done an outstanding job and have been called into service more than I think that they ever expected, considering the weather and tornadoes and a number of other things that have taken place in town. So, again, on behalf of our commission, thank you so much. That concludes at this point this portion. I'd like to ask for a motion to move into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Was there a second?
Second.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The meeting is now going into executive session.
All right.
The purpose of moving into executive session is to discuss personnel issues for the fire department.
Hold on one second, Chairman. I'm just trying to make sure that all I have left in the meeting right now are commissioners or chiefs, which I believe I have. I just remove somebody, and I'm just going to end the recording, okay?
Go right ahead, Chief.
Let me just make sure you are back on.
I'd like to reconvene the special Board of Fire Commission meeting, and I would like to entertain a motion to promote a firefighter to the rank of lieutenant. Do I have a commissioner who is willing to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mayor.
I'll make a motion to promote a firefighter to the rank of lieutenant.
Second.
And that firefighter is?
I'm sorry?
The name of the firefighter?
Chris Spaulding.
Do I hear a second to that motion?
Second.
Is there any question on the motion? All in favor of the motion to promote firefighter Chris Spaulding to the rank of lieutenant, signify by saying aye.
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 And any opposed? The unanimous vote. Firefighter Chris Spaulding is now Lieutenant Chris Spaulding. Chief, would you be kind enough to provide for me offline phone numbers so that way there I'll be able to notify the candidates that applied and certainly.
Yep, that's not a problem.
Thank you. Also, Chief, would you be kind enough to identify a swearing-in date?
We will. I'll ask that the candidate give me a call, or I'll probably see him at work next couple of days. We'll identify what's best for he and his family.
Okay, and certainly we'll notify the commissioners as to when that date and time will take place.
Certainly.
Any further business coming before this commission? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
This meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much for the amount of time that you spent on this. It's very much appreciated. This meeting's adjourned.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
The preceding program is brought to you in part through a grant from the town of North Haven. Watch town meetings or other videos on demand at nhtv.com.